Hey there, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuk with Queen Bee Creations, and today's ornament video, one of 30 days of Christmas ornaments, we are going to be using one of these flat lentil ornaments. Now, this one happens to be glass, works just as well with plastic, works just as well with a round ball. And really, as much as I'm starting with it in clear, for this, it could be a colored ball. So you could use an old colored ball for this. And really, rather than new, I just wanted to do it on a lentil, so I'm using this one. But really, take an old ornament because we're going to be painting it entirely. So you're not going to see it anyway. So it's a good use for an old ball. I'm going to pull you in. Let's get started. Now, for this, I want to create some kind of a raised border. And rather than, grabbing a mold and building it with clay, I thought it was good to maybe give you some ideas outside of that. If you have some clay molds that you could do some trim in a circle, maybe they even have circular frames, go for it. You can use those instead. The idea that we're doing today, the ornament we're doing, would work perfectly. If you don't, you could glue on some old beads in a round. Those would work. Today, we're going to use little fake embellishments from the dollar store. So these are pretty accessible. These ones are in pearlized finish. You could get them as little colored gemstones or rhinestones. Any of those work. Now, as much as they come with a sticky backing on them, I don't know how sticky they are. Okay, that seems pretty sticky. So what I am looking at doing is, as best I can, try and glue these in a circular frame. So that will delineate kind of my frame. I'm going to make these one-sided because I have more videos to go. So in the interest of my time, I'm doing them one-sided. But you could do exactly the same thing to the other side so that no matter which way they turn, they work. And who knows, I'm saying I'm doing them one-sided, but once I get going, I may change my mind. So, just continue doing this. If you need to draw a little circle on, I'm hoping maybe I can get it kind of circular looking. We'll see how it goes. Okay, all right, I did both sides. One side is smaller than the other, not by much. It's not gonna matter. So what I am gonna do is take the lid off, save that, but I'm gonna need this to help me paint both sides. And then I will, when I get low, stick it on the end of like a paintbrush or a dowel and then leave it to dry upside down. What I'm going to do is I want to paint it in sandstone. So this is like a really soft beigey blush pink. The images that I want to use are these old ones from one of my old IOD Christmas, but they have kind of that blushy pink in. And I want to do kind of a bit of an old world look on these rather than a bright white. You, however, paint it in whatever color makes sense for you, depending upon the image that you're using. I'm going to use a transfer piece because I have a lot of them, but you could decoupage an image in there. You could do water slide paper. You could do a transfer. So I'm just going to get this painted. I fully expect it's going to take me 2 coats. So we're just going to paint the whole thing. My little pearl beads, the entire ball, and then we'll be back. Now that my ornament has dried, the next step is to kind of roughly outline where my transfers are going to go in here, just because I have more transfer than I need, and I want to cut a little bit of the excess away so it doesn't inadvertently stick beyond where I need it to go. So I'm cutting a little bit outside of that circle, and you can see it, you guys can't, but I can see kind of where it's fallen on here. And then I'm going to rub that in. I'm just looking at the direction that I want it to go. And I'm just going to take my little tool and I'm going to transfer it inside. And then I'll do the same on the reverse side. I'm going to put the lid back on just so that as I start gluing things, I will in essence end up gluing that onto the bulb. Ideally, I'd like this to be gold. I'm waiting to see how much of it actually shows, and then I can add the gold after. What I do want is a little bit of greenery coming down. I'm just debating whether or not that's a little too little of greenery. And because I have done decoration on both sides, I want to make sure that I position whatever greenery I use, that it's positioned on both sides so that it looks lovely in either direction. So I'm just going to cut off this tubing part that was used to attach it into a pick. And I'm going to get, oh my goodness. The first one was easy and was misleading me. There we go. All right. Okay, so just curve these slightly because that's how they're going to attach. I'm going to put some glue down along, and I just want to kind of make sure that I glue it down the middle of that section of that bulb, just so that it looks balanced from both sides. I don't want it to just have a good side and a bad side. Oops. That was my finger. I didn't arc this enough before I glued it. Okay, perfect. Now I did find these little pink buds in my stash that are kind of the color that I need. And there were 6 of them, which is kind of perfect. So I have 3 and 3 to play with. I've left them a little longer. That piece just kind of pops out with the idea that I can nestle these up in there. They're going to overlap. So what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of my gold on first. So I have some gold lunar paste you could use. You can use Gilding waxes. If I found a gold one, I would use it. Okay, here we go. I have a bright gold Gilding wax. So these are just thick wax pastes. You can get them from any Sloan. I think Prima has them. I have them in the shop from Prima. A Rub and Buff product would work. And I'm just going to add a bit of gold on here before I start gluing all my flowers and I can't get to it comfortably. And I want to do both sides. This paint color, by the way, I'm not sure if I mentioned, is from the Alchemy line by Fusion. So what I'm thinking is that I will tuck 2 flowers in on the sides and have one coming down in the middle a little bit, so it kind of overlaps, so that we have the 3, and then I'll have to see what I'm doing with the top. So let me get those glued in. Okay, so I have my flowers in, and I could do ribbon and have the ribbon coming down. I just don't really have a color that I like in there. So what I'm going to do is I found this little pick, this little piece that has a bit of gold. And so because it's going to echo some of the gold trim that I added, I'm going to add some pieces of that. And I want to add a little bit of kind of a rustic kind of element to it because this has an old world feel. So I do have this little bag of these little baby pine cones. So I'm going to use a couple of those because they are super cute. Okay, you're too big. I actually want to go smaller than you. So I'm thinking that what I will do is nestle a little pine cone right up in there. So that ties it in, and add 2 pieces of this coming down here with a little baby pine cone up top. And then I think it'll be done. Okay, I didn't like these in there. So what I did do was I started looking around for something that was in kind of the pink tone that I wanted. And I found this thrifted bag of kind of rickrack pieces. And I'm thinking, I had options in there. So I'm debating. I'm kind of digging this one. It has an old world feel to it. And I'm just thinking that I could just glue a couple of strands coming down. It's just this section right here bugs me. It's just a little bare. So I'm going to cut a couple of little pieces, have that come down. That kind of fills in by the hook, have it V, and then maybe a little pine cone nestled there. New plan. And here's our finished little ornament. It definitely has kind of a soft, romantic feel to it, and kind of a Victoriana kind of look. And I know that there's a lot of people that love to decorate their tree up in those kinds of tones, like the deep burgundies and soft pinks and golds or silvers, right, with the metallic. And I think that the decision to go two-sided on this is perfect, because it just, this flat bulb just kind of lends itself, that lentil shape, to curving that way. And I like it with the little ribbon trim rather than those gold leaves. Sometimes you just kind of play, right? You look at what you've got in your stash and you go with that. So, you know, if this had been an old ornament, those were tiny old pieces of transfer that had been lying around, little tiny pieces that needed a little tiny project. But you could easily have added a section from an old Christmas card, you know, glued that on, and then we just glued those little half dome fake pearls from the dollar store on there to create the trim rather than using a mold. So there's lots of alternatives to be able to get that kind of textural feel without going the air dried clay and the mold route. Nothing wrong with them if you have them, but I know I hear from a number of you that say, look, I don't have those. I'm not saying I won't use the molds on other ornaments, but I wanted to give you an alternative. Let me know what you think of this one. Always love to hear from you. Take a look at the other ornaments that are in the lineup, certainly from the 30 days, or on the playlist that I have put together for you on the channel with all of the ornaments that I've done in the past. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.